Hello, everyone. I'm excited to host the last panel of the day. We are here for consumer engagement trends that will dominate 2023 panel. I will tell you a little bit about me. I am Clara Bowman. I work for Volta Charging. I'm a sales director of media sales. And Volta is a network of electric vehicle charging stations that are powered by media. We are strategically placed in front of prime retail locations such as grocery stores, drugstores, malls, and shopping centers across the country. All of us being in LA, I hope you've seen us at your local Whole Foods or Topgolfs or even Saks Fifth Avenue in Beverly Hills. I'm excited to be hosting this panel. I will welcome the panelists to the stage. We have Maya Kosovalic from NYX Professional Makeup at L'Oreal, PJ Lewis from Mattel, and Heather Stuckey from Wrigley. And I will let you guys kick it off and tell us a little bit about you guys and your roles at each company.
Who wants to start? Hi. Okay, my name is PJ Lewis. Oversee the action figure and plush vertical lead at Mattel. Been at Mattel 16 years. I've done a variety of things at the company, and happy to support brand innovators.
I'm Heather Stuckey. I work at Mars Wrigley. We are globally headquartered in Chicago, but I am based in Los Angeles, and I run our strategy and transformation for our global growth team, which means that I create and then operationalize our global growth agenda.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Maya Kosovalic. I am the VP of Digital Innovation and E-commerce for NYX Professional Makeup at L'Oreal. I've been with L'Oreal for over 17 years now, and I've been in the Canadian market, the travel retail market, which is duty-free in the Americas. So that's everything from Canada to Argentina. And then now I'm based in the L'Oreal newly minted West Coast HQ, which is not far from here in El Segundo. And super excited to be here with Brand Innovators. I was with them in Miami and happy to be here on the other side of the country.
Well, that's very exciting to have all of you here. And today's panel is all about consumer engagement trends that will define the next year. So let's kick this one off with a bang. Can each of you please give the audience one bold prediction for a trend that's going to dominate 2023?
I struggled with this one because I think there's so much going on. But the one thing that is coming up really front and center, at least for the last couple of weeks, is the role of identity and how it and just how it plays across the internet. And obviously, we've all seen what's happened with Twitter over the last week in figuring out like how people identify themselves, if they're able to create parody accounts of other people, and what will the regulation be around that? And is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And I don't know, but it's something that I'm just throwing out there because I think it's really front and center of certainly what's happening today, and I think we're just seeing the start of what's to come.
I'm going to go a different direction. Audience participation moment. Who's excited for 2023? All right, a fairly optimistic audience. I actually think one of the trends which is going to dominate is how brands are going to be more optimistic because they have to be. I think it's a very difficult time. For a lot of us, in how we think about certainly many global factors, certainly inflation. I think sustainable brands are always continuously going to win over time. But I think optimism is going to be a very interesting trend, and I think one that you're going to see a lot of sort of counter programming to all the bad news out there.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't want to sound too robotic. I was going to go with AI. But the nature of my role is really to look at innovation that's going to disrupt and be around for the next 5 to 10 years, and it's going to pick up and be more dominant in the coming years. So I think that perhaps not the dominant, but certainly we'll see a rising trend and continued trend of media fragmentation and sort of overwhelm and competition for consumer attention, which will pave the way for even bigger adoption of artificial intelligence and augmented reality. So I think augmented reality is already pretty out there today with Snapchat and TikTok having really fun filters that people can engage with. But I think brand marketers and consumers will truly engage AR to an even greater extent in 2023 to have more fun, more engaging experiences, and to distract them from the perils of the real world. I think the other piece that's linked to that is more experimentation and adoption of VR and metaverse experiences. As we saw some of that this year, but I think next year it'll be much more organized and brands will be more focused on delivering true value propositions to consumers for engaging in those types of spaces. And lastly, I think that there'll be a bigger brands, larger adoption of blockchain-powered tech, especially anything Web3 related, as brands enter the space and try to figure out the utility for the consumer as opposed to just collectability. So, and I think, given the space that the world's in today, a lot of this tech will provide some very deep distractions for everything that's going on.
I got to speak to Maya yesterday, and I will put you on the spot and say, if anybody wants a great definition of Web3, she is very good at explaining that. So jumping into the second question, you all work for big, well-known brands that are beloved by consumers. As such, you have access to a collection of data on your consumers' habits, preferences, and spending behaviors. PJ, this one's for you. Can you share an example of how you've used this first-party data to keep you informed of consumer trends and help shape your marketing strategies?
Absolutely. So as we think about our marketing strategies, there's obviously how we communicate with our consumers, our core consumers, which can be at Mattel, various age groups. But one of the areas I would love to touch on is how first-party data can inform product development strategies. We've launched recently a direct-to-consumer arm. It's really interesting if you're into pop culture, as well as some of the brands that we offer called Mattel Creations. Check out the Instagram, total plug right there. But what's really interesting is what we're seeing, a lot of our feedback loop, a lot of certainly some of our more energized consumers and sort of what they're thinking about and how they want to engage in some of our brands. And we actually have a crowdfund going right now. For $550, you can get a Masters of the Universe playset. One may say, what are you going to do with a $550 playset? But we have such an engaged collector community, fan community, and that's on top of a big, really a huge trend in the industry where you're actually seeing more toys being sold to consumers 18 plus, collectors, fans of different IPs. And we're finding we have the ability to deliver incredibly curated experiences for these audiences. And a lot of that comes from this data. How do we think about price points? How do we think about delivering great product solutions? A lot of it comes from one-to-one feedback. A lot of it comes from social listening. So there's a fair amount of data that's informing where we go next as we lead with different collector or fan audiences. And we're finding it a very rich area for our company to participate in, especially around this 18 plus group.
My husband is part of that 18 plus group, so I understand that very much
that.
so. What role does personalization play in the marketing efforts at your respective organizations, and how does it tie back into consumer engagement? I'll let anyone answer that one.
I can start with this one. So for Mars Wrigley, we have brands such as M&M's, Snickers, Three Musketeers, Skittles. And so for us, it's all about, so basically in terms of being personal, it would be quite expensive for us to be personal to everybody. And so what we look at is we really dive deep into listening to the consumer and understanding how they're talking about our brands. How do we get involved in the conversation, and how do we come up with relevant solutions that are relevant not only to the people that are having the conversations, but also staying true to our heritage. So, for example, M&M's is an 80-plus-year-old brand. And so when it launched 80 years ago, it had in the 1940s, it was a very different audience than what it is today. However, we've continued to keep M&Ms relevant by keeping our characters fresh. We did a huge character refresh at the end of last year, and also just launched a new spokes candy. She's purple, and she's our first female peanut character, and she's all about being authentic and allowing you to show your true colors, and really under our purpose-driven anthem of M&Ms for all fun kind. And so that's just one example of how we really, really dive deep into understanding how do we stay relevant to consumers, how do we give them what they want, but also stay true to our brands, which is not always easy, but it's fun also. So
I can fill in a little bit on personalization. I don't know your husband, but on some of those collector...
Big gamer.
Okay, big gamer, right? So I think what's actually interesting about personalization for us, and my portfolio reflects a lot of pop culture brands, whether it's WWE, whether it's Masters of the Universe, and across our company, whether it's Hot Wheels and some of the other things that we do. Personalization could be a journey or an experience that someone had with a brand throughout their life, whether it's nostalgia, whether it's something that they're engaged in currently in relevant storylines. We find that we exist very much in both our marketing and product experiences to deliver what I think is something that appeals to this affinity. And whether, we don't necessarily have personalized product solutions, but we can tap into a personal journey with a product or a brand by delivering what I think are the best authentic solutions and products to really just, provide joy. And our group spends a lot of time in Comic-Con. We've spent a lot of time in that type of that space. And you find personal interactions with your fans, both one-to-one in real life or in social or in certain types of social media where we can engage further, are driving personal experience around brands that are shared and brands that are loved. It's nothing new, but we can find new ways to do that, which is really exciting for us.
Okay. Well, as it relates to personalization, beauty as a category is inherently hyper-personal. And so I think that the beauty consumer has grown to expect a personalized approach. And this dates back, way back when you had to walk into a store and receive a personalized consultation from a beauty advisor, which you still can do. But there is more and more brands that are in sort of self-serve free access environments like Sephora's and Ulta's, which have certainly beauty advisors, but not at the same level. And then e-commerce penetration is growing in the industry and in every industry as a whole. So when we think about personalization, first as a brand, NYX Professional Makeup is very much driven by the community and representing our very diverse community. And by the way, we have a very high penetration of male makeup users, and who are also gamers.
Knew all about NYX Professional.
Yeah, because we're very active on
Twitch.
On Twitch, yeah. So we have a truly diverse community, and we believe makeup has no gender. And so as such, I think the first element is making sure that we are bringing products to the market that are representative and that are going to be suit the needs of our very diverse community. So for example, one of our foundations, Can't Stop, Won't Stop, has 45 shades. We bring 45 shades to make sure there's inclusivity for everyone. Our lip color, which is not so much driven by skin tone, but like lip color, it's important to have a large shade range to make sure that you have diversity for different pigments that the color pops. So Shine Loud, our liquid lip launch of last year, had 30 shades, and so on and so forth. We have very large shade ranges, and then every launch, of course, is coupled with our virtual try-on technology, which leverages sort of skin scanning with an AR overlay that allows you to try any product within our very large catalog virtually from the comfort of your own home or with the ease of the phone that's in your pocket. And you can try on any product individually to see if it's the right shade for you, or you can try on complete look and then receive the custom look in your email to aid you in your next shopping journey. So that's from a product standpoint. Then, of course, from a content standpoint, we're very focused on driving diversity and representation across the board and 365 days of the year. So our content is representative of this very diverse community every single day, and to make sure that what we're putting out there resonates. And our community is very vocal. So if it doesn't, they let us know.
Speaking of consumer trends, Heather, you launched an incubator for Mars Wrigley in Ignition Labs. Sorry, my throat is very dry from being sick from my 9-month-old. Whose goal is to transform go-to-market content strategies in order to connect with rapidly changing consumer preferences and behaviors. Can you talk about some of the work Ignition Labs has done based on these consumer insights?
Yeah, so we are very good. We can make Super Bowl ads all day, every day, and we're really great at capturing the moment with a 30-second or 30, a long form video. And what I found was that we needed to figure out how to go from a place of not just taking the 30-second TV spot and cutting it down into all of these different assets for TikTok, Instagram, et cetera, but really trying harder to understand what are the needs of those consumers as they're watching our content on those platforms. So I launched this incubator a couple of years ago, which was all about trying to figure out how do we create faster pilots and a faster understanding of just getting content out there to see what sticks, and also seeing what's already out there about our brands that we can capitalize on. So, but also staying true to our mantra of we really are all about wanting to make people laugh, cry, or be useful. So we always have to evoke some kind of emotion. So this was again a couple of years ago when I first launched this on TikTok, where we had a Dreamies cat treat brand, and the insight was all around when the cats hear the shake of the product, they go wild for this cat treat. And what we found is that people were already recording their cats on TikTok when they were shaking the bags, and then the cats would run all around and they would feed the cat the treat. So we then we connected with a couple of content creators who were already influencers on TikTok to help create content that we worked with them to create, but then it started a movement on TikTok so that people saw it as a kind of an extension of what was already happening on the platform and not as an ad. So that's just one example. Another example is on Reddit. We were really trying hard to figure out what our place was on Reddit, because in a lot of subreddit communities, they are very anti-advertising. And so we launched a campaign for adopting cats. And specifically, what we found is in the US, Black cats are usually the last to go out of adoption centers because they're hard to take pictures of, and they're hard to, it's harder to see a Black cat take pictures of them on Instagram or whatever your social media of choice was. So we connected with subreddit communities to understand there's tons of subreddit communities about this too, of how we can increase the awareness of adopting Black cats out of shelters. And we ended up, this was a very short little, like kind of over a couple weeks pilot, but we ended up getting about 5 cats adopted. And we got a huge just overall excitement from the community and upvotes and everything, and things that you normally don't get as a brand, just in terms of just figuring out how do we have the right message for the audience that we're trying to reach. So those are just a couple examples, but it's been a really fun couple of years just figuring out and just constantly figuring out where are the audiences going, and how do we make sure that we're relevant and saying the, being part of the conversation and not just kind of speaking at consumers.
Love that. Switching gears a little bit to inflation that is on everyone's minds these days, as consumers have to deal with higher prices whenever they visit their local grocery store, big box retailers, the pharmacy, etc. How has this reality changed the way you connect with consumers? And are there any specific brand examples you can speak to that show this in action?
I can start. So for us, we are looking at Mars Wrigley is all about bringing moments to make people smile. So that is something that is true in any kind of in any kind of environment. But we also know that consumers want comfort and they want control. And so it is our job to think about how do we offer experiences beyond the product to ensure that they are continuing to engage with us and come back to us. So one of the surprising stats is that a third of consumers will leave a brand if they have a bad experience. So for us, it's all about creating a better experience for consumers in order for them to continue to want to purchase our products and continue to find the value that they're getting out of that's beyond just the actual candy bar itself.
I think there's something very interesting about value and quality that we're talking a lot about right now in this moment. Mattel specifically, obviously, is a very seasonal business. You sort of have a lot of forces coming together in some of our peak weeks right now. It'll be really interesting to see how this holiday season ends, but with a focus on quality, certainly over quantity, and thinking about how brands will resonate. And delivering the right price value in our products and what we do across all the many brands at Mattel is something that we are addressing every day. I think inflation's an enormous deal when you're dealing with something that when you think about discretionary purchase, when you think about some of the categories that we play in, making sure that the quality and the products are worth it, the brands continue to be premium relative to the competitive set. And there's a perceived cost to trading down, and I think that's something that we think about a lot. And we also think about our consumers who may not have as much money to spend around the world, and we're seeing real world examples of that constantly right now with certain currency fluctuations and other things. So it's a living, breathing challenge. And as we think about 2023, I hope it gets a little easier.
I agree with the focus on the value proposition to the consumer wholeheartedly. So I think when faced with economic uncertainty and volatility, which is basically what inflation is creating and will continue to create into 2023, it's important that brands continue to deliver value to the consumer beyond just the price and cost per milliliter or ounce or item, and think about the more sort of intangible values, like what communities do you stand for, and are you continuing to give back to those communities? So both financially and by providing a platform and representation. So for example, NYX Professional Makeup is very close and supportive of the LGBTQI plus community, and it's a community that we support 365 days of the year and also provide donations year round, not just during Pride Month. And so this is an example of really engaging with the community. We continuously provide platforms and visibility and drive representation within our industry for this community and create platforms for them, especially for creators in the community to flourish and shine and grow. And then I think there are other elements, which Heather mentioned, around sparking joy in everyday life. And I think beauty as a category is one that generally consumers turn to when other things are out of reach, but you can spark a little bit of joy in your daily life and beyond just the product experience and how you feel, because a beauty can also influence. It can influence how you show up in the world, your self-image, and also your self-esteem, how you feel about the way you show up in the world. And so there is an element of uplifting and joy that beauty can bring, and that is an element I think that we definitely will be focusing on. And lastly, fun and immersive experiences for consumers. An example, we were at TwitchCon. We're not a gaming brand, but we do have a lot of consumers that are gamers and that feel sometimes more comfortable in their gaming persona than they do in the real world. And so we were at TwitchCon. We had a booth, and even though we're not a gaming company, it's a gaming convention. There was an hour and a half long wait to get into the next booth because all these gamers were super excited to get a moment to be pampered by one of our pro artists and play and experiment with self-expression in IRL through makeup. And so it was a very joyful and an exciting moment, and you could see that from the faces of the people that were entering the booth and that were going through the experience. Or the example of, we had Smooth Whip, which is our latest lip launch. It's a very hydrating lipstick. We had our Smooth Whip truck tour college campuses and attend tailgates to essentially create entertainment for the game attendees that is safe for everyone to consume and enjoy as they get ready for the big game. But those are just examples of giving back, immersive experiences, and sparking joy and delivering value beyond just price point.
Talking about those moments that make you smile, thinking about the M&M commercials for the holidays are my favorite, and I hope that the purple M&M makes a special appearance during those holiday commercials. So on the last panel, we just learned about how purpose drives profit. Let's look at it from a slightly different angle. How does your company use purpose in its marketing to connect with consumers? This is for all of you.
So I gave probably our best example to date on the purple M&M earlier. So I think Mars is overall is a very purpose-driven company. So everything that we do, we really think hard about how we're going to incorporate purpose-driven messaging in not only in our content, but then also in the crews that we hire, that both behind the camera, in front of the camera, and we've always been very, very focused on that. And so the launch of M&Ms for All Fun Kind was a huge bringing that to life a lot more. So we have a global fund. It's FUN in all caps and then D, where we're raising money for a variety of different areas of focus, including sustainability, LGBTQ rights, also just diversity and inclusivity, excuse me. And so we're looking at raising money for across a number of different charities that we partner with and work with. And that's just one of the examples that we have in terms of bringing that to life. We also are very, like for Skittles, for example, we're very involved with the LGBTQ community with, when we think about gay pride parades, we've launched a couple of years ago. Skittles is obviously all about tasting the rainbow, and on Pride, for Pride Month, we sell white Skittles then our messaging is all around we're giving the rainbow to the only rainbow that matters, and so things like that are really true to how we need to connect with our consumers in a very purpose-driven way.
Do you want to shake up the order, or do you want me to go?
I have a long answer for this, so maybe you should go.
Okay. Everything we do at the company, all our brands, we have a playbook, and part of that is purpose and brand purpose. And we're continuously refining with great product solutions, great marketing campaigns for how we think about purpose. Whether it's relaunching Matchbox from one of my colleagues, with the sustainability, really foundation in sustainability and in thinking about how Matchbox could be a more modern brand, to another area that earlier this year, we honored a woman who created a company in the 80s because her son, she's African American, and her son said he couldn't be a superhero because there was no superheroes that looked like him. And it was a hero, an action figure by the name of Sunman. We partnered with her. Her name's Wyla Eason. She's so amazing and just inspiring. We partnered with her to re-release Sunman. We did a content piece around this called A Hero Like Me. And it was, something that I think helped us really rally around sort of, I think, a moment that maybe didn't capture enough let's say eyeballs or press or fans when it happened back in the 80s. And it had great, the reception was tremendous, and we were able to actually build a business off of it. So as we think about purpose and we think about what we do, we're always looking for great stories to tell, to make our brands, certainly think about inclusivity for our brands and our audiences, and purpose can drive profit, which I think the previous panel said.
I love that, and I love the example of the importance of representation. So what I wanted to share was, it is linked to Pride and to the LGBT community. So this year, with our Pride collection and during a time of elevated cultural tension surrounding the LGBTQI+ community, we wanted to really create a platform to allow the community to celebrate Pride at full volume and safely, no matter where they were in the world. And it was an iconic year because it was, the first in-person Pride in over 2 years. And Pride is historically a moment of celebration, and with everything that was going on in the country, it was feeling a little heavy. And so we created a huge both IRL and IVL campaign around our Pride collection, which was called "Feeding Myself, I Paint My Own Story," and it was really pushing this topic of makeup has no gender to the forefront, and explaining the plus in the LGBTQI plus as part of our long-term promise and program that we launched with the LA LGBT Center called Proud Allies for All, which talks about the importance of being an ally for this community, where a lot of our employees also got certified to be proud allies. And so with this year's program, like I said, we felt very strongly to create a platform that would be truly safely accessible by all. And so we created Meta Pride. And so our objective was simple. We wanted to create a platform for the community to celebrate safely from anywhere and at full volume Pride. We also wanted to recruit new crypto curious and Web3 mavens and gaming consumers. And we wanted to bring our community from Web2 into Web3, because our community is also full of creators, and Web3 presents a lot of opportunities for monetizing content for content creators. So we thought it was also our duty to help and educate and bring this new platform to a larger stage. So to that end, we partnered with people of Crypto Lab and the Sandbox, which is one of the largest decentralized worlds out there, to create the Valley of Belonging, the first inclusivity and diversity environment and platform in a gaming universe. And the results were, fantastic, but essentially what we created was, with certainly partnership with those two partners, because we are not gaming developers, we basically provided our Pride collection and inspiration for the avatars that were being created as part of this collection and offered as NFTs. So before I tell you the results and what happened, I have a video to show you the sizzle reel of the gaming experience. So as you can see from the video, it was extremely important that the avatars that were being put forward were representative of the global majority. So we, in partnership with People of Crypto, launched 8,430 avatars as NFTs that were dropped and sold out at 100% during what was called the crypto winter. So a lot of celebrity collections were not selling out at that time, but this collection happened to sell out. And because we believe that it was really resonating with some important issues in the industry. So driving diversity and representation in tech, which has always been needed, and we want to make sure that the world of tomorrow is more inclusive than the world of today. Dropping the 8,430 avatar NFTs was symbolic because they were representative of 84.3% of the global majority, meaning every skin tone, every ethnicity, every religious background, sexual orientation, and also mobility. So we had avatars that were in wheelchairs and on crutches, and it was a surprise collection where you purchased and didn't know what avatar you were going to get, and then there was a reveal once the collection was made public, and then once you got this avatar, you were able to go into the sandbox and play the game, and at the end of the game, there's this big party in the clouds where you could celebrate Pride, and you could also access the experience if you don't have an NFT. It is free. It's just that if you had one of those NFTs, you could show up in a truly authentic way that might be more representative and meaningful to you. And so we were very happy with the results. As I said, the collection sold out. We were the first beauty brand in the sandbox, and you can see the environment is they're using voxelized sort of design, so it doesn't lend itself to really giving you the 100% true to life sort of makeup result, but it's more symbolic to create a platform for celebrating Pride and to drive representation in Web3. And so we had a high penetration of female gamers and non-binary gamers that participated and purchased the NFTs. And ultimately, it created a wave in the industry in terms of how brands can show up to support their causes, to create platforms and experiment with new tech. And so that's one example that was more about equity and purpose and supporting the community. And as you've also heard, I'm sure that a lot of NFT collections have sold for exorbitantly high prices. So our collection was very accessibly priced because we are an accessible brand. And 100% of the NYX professional makeup proceeds were donated to the LA LGBT Center. So it was a super cool activation and really, I think, showcased the community at a time when we felt it was needed in a new, different, disruptive way. And then more recently, we've been experimenting with digital identity, with more photorealistic avatars, and sort of testing the waters for how interested our community is in that. Because at the core, I mean, NYX Professional Makeup is driven by serving its community, and we're committed to providing pro-level makeup, the most expert formulas, and the highest grade pigments at an accessible price point for all. And so in order to essentially help them self-express, as we say, at full volume. And so we see the tools of, avatar tech and AR and VR as new tools for unstoppable self-expression. And so that's why we as a beauty brand are experimenting in this space. And if you look at what's going on today, on Snapchat and on TikTok and how people are playing with filters, but also gamers reporting that they feel more connected to their in-game personality than to their IRL persona. I think digital identity is going to be an interesting space. And so today if you go to NYX Cosmetics Instagram, if you take out your phone, I'm sure you all have one, and you go to the NYX Instagram account, you'll see the latest post is the video from our live that aired just an hour ago, and it was our pro artist Erica G introducing Maya, her avatar beauty influencer. And Maya stands for My Artistry Intelligence. And she is the face of our virtual try-on, but also now this beauty influencer avatar, whom we just had a fun sort of engaging conversation around our holiday collection and what she loves about it and how she uses it and why she loves makeup. And it was a super cool experience to see the engagement from our consumers and what was resonating with them. And it was a playful way to play with this somewhat unapproachable technology, because if you have tried to enter a Web3 space or a metaverse sort of game space, it usually requires a lot of steps, like getting a crypto wallet, opening an account, getting approved. It can take multiple days, so it's very difficult to bring people from Web 2 into Web 3. And so here we were looking at, how do we bring the power that this tech promises on a Web 2 platform. And so that was sort of the premise, and then to see how the community responds to it, because like I said at the beginning, I do think that what we'll see next year is a lot more brands entering the space, and as more brands and big tech giants enter the space, they'll make sure that the user journey is more seamless, more frictionless, and essentially to drive more mass adoption. So do check it out. It's a shameless plug, but it was a super cool live.
It is very, very super cool. I know everybody is ready for cocktail hour now, so I don't know if we want to do a few questions or...
We'll do one question. Anybody? Maybe not. Maybe save them for cocktail hour. That's okay. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much for such a great conversation. Absolutely.